Hey, oh wow, that's not correct. Is that correct now? No, almost. Wait, fixing it. Oh, wait, fixing it. Okay. It's right. Yay! I told you. As soon as I was not paying attention. Welcome! Welcome to a kind of special Discussing Tabletop. It's still technically Discussing Tabletop, but we're throwing all the magic stuff together so that, you know, as much as Joe enjoys talking about it, he's not, like, always deep into it as I am, you know? Or as some of my wonderful guests here, like the Orcish Librarian. And Blaze is technically here, who I play the Forest with and Arc with. So if you're familiar with my streaming stuff, and I've played Magic with him in real life before, so that's a thing. So yes, Discussing Tabletop on a Sunday and talking Magic. Let's dive into it. I got a bunch of topics to talk about. We're going to talk about a bit of controversy for the first couple topics, Magic and Amazon. I'm going to be a little more medium ground about this. Magic and apparently their Protour player treatment, because I saw the Reddit post on someone like talking about that. That was a nice one. Then some things that are less controversial with the booster box masterpieces, whatever you want to call them. I don't know what they're... I keep forgetting what they're referring to them. Ravnica Spoilers, the Magic novels, we're going to hit it in again. And then, if we have a little time, Magic Online versus Physical Magic, a little bit. So, very, very magic-y magic. Magic. Magic versus Amazon, or Magic and Amazon. This is an interesting one. So, the entire thing is, Magic kind of threw into the article, which I can link the article in chat, because while looking for other things, I managed to come across it, and I didn't even realize this entire thing is where I heard people on Twitter talking about this from. Apparently, they're directly selling on Amazon now, or going to, rather than
They've said that they're going to, yes.
Rather than having it like a local game store can sell through Amazon. So, I understand the entire thing is, this is, you know, Amazon can cut the prices down to a minimum more than a gaming store can. So they can undercut anybody. So this is definitely good for their business. It's bad for local gaming store business. And I understand that that is a thing about it. You know, there's a lot of stuff boiling around with this. But my unfortunate entire take on it is, I don't have very easily accessible local gaming stores personally. It's at least... the closest one I think is 20 to 25 minutes away from me. The closest. So that's one of those things. If I had one that was like down the street or in my local town, the only other place that the place I normally get Magic cards from already has some of the lowest prices I see, and he's a sports card shop that also sells Magic cards, kind of on the side. So maybe that'll affect him, which I feel bad about. But it's not like, it's not affecting me as much as other people, I think, is why I don't have the same stake as I think a lot of other people do on Twitter. What do you guys think about this entire thing?
I'm going to similarly do, I'm not even going to call it a hot take. I'm going to call it kind of like a room temperature take.
Yeah.
And I have to caveat this by saying that I don't understand the economics that go into operating a game store. I'm not even going to try to pretend to understand the economics of operating a game store. I have no idea what their margins are on things like booster boxes and sealed product. I have no idea what percentage of their revenue that accounts for. So in terms of what is the impact going to be on local stores, I can't say. And I don't think it's going to be as simple as that. Like you said, I think that there are probably some stores for whom it's going to represent a problem.
Yeah.
There are, I think, plenty of stores out there which will just completely shrug it off because that's not what drives their revenue. They're not competing on price. They're competing on having a really good facility that people want to come in and use and do events, and they sell other products. I don't think there's going to be a single impact on local retailers. And to the extent that there is, I sure can't tell you what it's going to be. To me, the big thing that I feel about this is it was inevitable.
Yeah.
It was inevitable. Amazon is the single, and it's not just Amazon, I should add. It's also, they said Walmart and Target, they'll do direct e-commerce through. these are the most ubiquitous retailers in the country, the most ubiquitous online retailers. The idea that Hasbro was not going to eventually want to sell directly through those channels, it just strikes me as non-credible. And frankly, I'm surprised that it hasn't happened already. And is it bad news potentially for local stores? It could be. Is it bad news for local stores that also try to do e-commerce through Amazon or these platforms? Yeah, it probably could be. But I can't imagine a universe where this wasn't going to happen eventually. And I think that people who want it to not happen, I just can't imagine that. And if your concern is for helping local stores, then I think there has to be a different solution to that. It has to be more products or other, store exclusive products that they put into those channels that generate revenue for them. It can't be just keeping booster boxes off of Amazon.
No, I agree that it's going to be inevitable. And there's like a couple other important details. Like Hasbro has apparently a notoriously terrible online store.
Can confirm.
Yeah, so that's a thing. They're so terrible, they already kind of had one, but it's just bad. And the other thing is, I've been to a Walmart and randomly came across like a Magic product, because they have Magic cards at a physical Walmart, that sometimes I got lucky and found something that had been sitting there for a while I never got before. I've done it like twice. And I'm like, hey, I was going to get this, managed not to get it. I would have had to like gotten through secondary markets. Yo, thanks Walmart for having like product that doesn't really sell, but sort of does.
I don't live close enough to a Target to be able to experience this, but there's like a whole subculture thing on Magic Twitter where people find stuff at Target, like Commander decks from 3 years ago that you can't find them online now, or if you do, it's for 3 times the MSRP, and they're just randomly marked down on an end cap at Target somewhere. Yeah. And to be clear, you also find a lot of crap. a lot of the Commander precons that are marked down on the end cap because they're the ones that nobody wanted. But you also find, weird old stuff like that too.
Now, Blaze, I kind of want your opinion here, because you're someone that doesn't get as much Magic products as like I do, or occasionally Joe does. You're much more playing off the cards that you already have. So I know this is not going to affect you as much, but what would you do in the situation, like if you were going to saw something that was like, oh, I want to get that, like a not like a single card, but like a product of some kind, like a box or a pre-constructed deck that they sell.
Well, yeah, that's, I have gotten a few from Walmart back when, the fat packs and everything. The one thing that helped me, like, again, how you said there's not a game store that's really super close by.
Yeah.
And with a lot of my work schedule, I don't have the pleasure to, or convenience to drive a half hour sometimes to go find something. I have a Amazon Prime account, and that's some of the older like stuff that had come out. I was able to go on Amazon and, oh, here's a booster box. It's sort of marked down a little bit because it is, say, 2 releases out.
Yeah. And granted,
it's shipped to my door,
And granted, I think the ones you were taking advantage of were still local game store at that point in time, because most of them were reselling. But it works just the same that Amazon's doing it, and you might get even more bonuses. Like, because you are a Prime member, it might help you out more to be like, oh, yeah, I want this now. So,
yeah, I did try to, when I looked, they were, as you said, sold by some of the smaller, like sold by blah, 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 wasn't sold by Amazon. So, and maybe some of them weren't in this state. Maybe I was helping out a local store, somewhere else, but they were trying to get rid of some of their older product.
Yeah, I definitely think it's an interesting circumstance, unfortunately, because it's this weird double-edged sword, and it has both positive and negative things. And like, people can talk about why they did it for the longest time, but I agree with you. It was an inevitable thing for them to hit more of an online market. Online market's big. Now, if there's some kind of driving force behind it, doesn't matter. It was going to happen eventually. I definitely agree on that. I don't know.
And I also understand, for anybody out there who owns a store and has an, you know, really strong reaction to this because they're worried about their livelihood, I get that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that the solution has to be that Wizards needs to look at other things they can do that support their WPN partners, and provide, you know, additional revenue streams for them, which require people to go into the store. But I can't imagine that it's, you know, going to be 2020 or whatever, and we're living in a universe where Hasbro isn't selling booster boxes on Amazon.
Well, that hits into a different topic, which I forgot to add to this one, which we can just sort of add into this here. Things like buy a box promos. Ones that people want. Things like that, that maybe they don't have them at Amazon. You got them at the local game store. It does encourage you to head out there. You know, maybe I really want that promo, so I go to there. But I'm going to have to spend a little bit more anyway. Now, granted, that's not another can of worms, is like the way they're doing promos this entire year. I mean, that's a can of worms that we, you know, where they're doing unique cards for buy a box promos rather than ones that are just promos of cards in the sets.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that just sounds like, you know, the games that you had to pre-order to get something, and if you never did that, oh well.
Well, like, the first time they did it with Dominaria, the card was good, but it wasn't like, I had to have this good. So if you went...
It was commander good. It wasn't constructed playable.
Yeah, so if I wanted to get that on, like, a secondary market, I only really wanted to get one. You know, I'm not looking for, like, a huge playset. While I can't remember its name now. The core
Nexus
set,
of Fate.
Nexus of Fate, and the core set was like a must-have for standard.
Honestly, the really frightening thing about that is not the fact that not even so much the way they're doing the buy a box promos. It's the fact that that card came out of development and they were convinced it was not constructed playable. Because their whole pitch on the buy box promos is, don't worry, we're not expecting these to see standard play. So you don't need to worry about getting a play set. And the fact that not only is it constructed playable, it was the critical card at that Pro Tour.
Yes. God.
So whatever play development team missed on that one.
That's not the first time they've missed stuff, though. They're good sometimes.
And it's not going to be able to last because it's an impossible job. And it's a job where you can be 99% successful, and the people are only going to notice the 1% where you miss, and they're going to kill you for it.
Oh, and if anybody out there is unfamiliar with Nexus of Fate, gives you an extra turn, and then if it goes to your graveyard from anywhere, you reveal it and shuffle it to your library for 7 mana. So, yeah. Basically, for 1 more mana than, what is it, Time Warp, you put it back in your library.
2 more, I think. I think Time Warp's 5.
Blaze, you play with a lot of Time Warp since you had your Time Warp deck. Do you remember?
I believe it was, 5. Cause
okay, but still.
It was like 7 or 8 mana to do that whole combo I had. Just,
Your infinite Time Warp combo? Yeah, that was a fun one to play against.
and again, it's this is, I'd say this less as a criticism to say that playtest team did a bad job, and more just the impossibility of always being correct on this. That was the same set where they put out a new fog effect that they upcosted to 2 mana instead of 1 mana with the specific stated reason that they said we don't want Turbo Fog to be a deck in standard. And then again, you had Turbo Fog with Nexus of Fate, both at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's like that would have driven, or that does drive, sales at a local game store. So I think this is coming back around that we can see that they can still attempt things to help the local game store, but then again, it's Magic, and they can make horrible, horrible mistakes like this one here. So, I don't know. I think this is definitely one that people should keep an eye out, just how it develops. I believe the words that was inevitable are the correct thing here, so it's not something we can deny about the entire thing. And we can hope this just means an evolution of the game, and the marketplace, rather than hindering it. So, again, I do agree. I don't know how local game stores, what their margins are or anything like that, or how they're competitive with stuff. I've heard, relatively speaking, it's not the best. So I mean, that's on a combination of Wizards in the first place, and local game stores maybe not putting together enough of a, what's the way I want to say this, making it look enough of like it should be this thing. That, like, not promoting it that I have it at a higher price. I guess everybody wants to sort of compete with each other in a way, and that's why it's some people do better than others. I think like the most impressive I saw was like 80 or something. Boxes were like 80 at at this one place at PAX Unplugged. It was that was ridiculous. That's really cheap. So, I mean, like,
yeah, it has to be they're doing that as a loss leader to try to drive sales somewhere else.
They had some other products there. I think it was like a place that had like playmats and stuff, like custom ones that were probably really expensive and stuff, and I was like, I don't play enough. Like, I don't play Friday Night Magic. I play casually. I don't need a playmat. Sorry, I'll take your boxes, but that's about it. But no, yeah. Definitely there's plenty of shops that are going to be affected by this. There's others that won't be, and we're going to have to see how the entire thing evolves as time goes on. And ultimately, yeah, this is definitely going to see how it's going to end up, how this will affect Magic. It's probably going to affect it in a certain way. It's going to change the game in a certain way. And the thing is, since I've been around, I remember like the dark times when Magic like lost a lot of popularity and kind of went into like a funk for a while. I left for a while during that time and then came back. They had their resurgence, but they could kind of go into they could kind of falter for a while, and again, I remember when, like, because they were doing stuff so badly, the prices of everything tanked out to like absolute nil. What a great time to buy a bunch of cards, except for anything from Alpha and Beta, but.
And I think in the same way that there's nothing that Magic players love, especially Magic players on social media, love more than overreacting to everything.
I agree on that. Yes.
It drives when people saw this and their reaction is, oh, this is the first step in Wizards trying to end paper and push people out of paper and push everyone over to Arena. I think that's seeing a twig and inferring the existence of a forest. Which is an entirely separate discussion that I don't even want to get into, like why it would be crazy for them to want to push people out of paper.
And that's the thing I wanted to talk about a little later on, because I don't think they're going to push it, but I think they do want more online play, and I can kind of tell that way anyway, because it's cheaper. It's cheaper for them not to print stuff. But they probably don't want to compete with Hearthstone, which is doing a lot. Not as much as they kind of are, yet not are. And at least on the online play.
Also just the idea that it has to be an either or. The online business drives the paper business, and the paper business drives the online business, and they make a ton of money printing paper cards. Even if you want to increase your online presence, and there's no question that they want to increase their online presence because it's a different revenue stream, you don't have to cannibalize paper to do that, and you wouldn't stop making a ton of money. If you have a thing that literally they print money. They print pieces of cardboard and it turns into money. And if you had the ability to print money, you're not going to be like, I think I'm going to stop doing that in an attempt to make money in a different way.
Well,
you can do both.
That's the thing is, like, I tried to get into Magic Online, but, like, I hit this wall with it of, like, I didn't want to build new decks. I could only use the cards that they provided me, or I had to buy more stuff, and I'm like, I can't just play around, create custom ones, and play with my friends. Not anything special, just do that. No. I didn't have that option, which I played around with trying to get that to work for a while. You know, I threw together a custom deck with a bunch of stuff that I owned in real life, but not on Magic Online, and they're like, no, you can't do anything with it. I'm like, then why? What's the point? I spent $10 to get this. You know, I just spent some money for you. I don't know. I'm sure there are people that play specifically on there and buy stuff, but what about me, who's not playing for tournaments or ranks or anything like that, who just wants to play with some friends?
Yeah, they're different experiences, and for some people you're going to want both, and for some people you're going to want one and not the other.
Yeah.
You know, if you live in a place where you don't have people locally that you can play with, online is great, arena is great. If you know, if that's the way, if that's your preferred experience, if you're just happier playing at home, especially, you know, if you're a streamer, if you like streaming, those are great. And if you're the sort of person who doesn't enjoy that and you want to play paper, you want to play kitchen table Magic, you want to play F&M, you can do that too. There's not one experience that fits all users, and there doesn't need to be.
True. And like for me, I want to still experiment with playing physical yet on stream, because I want to try to use Discord and just have cameras down at the games and see. It's because someone was talking to me about that. I will experiment on one of these days, so it's like I'm still physically playing Magic, but totally online.
But Tantus, where you said, you know, I was looking at that where when you got on the, you know, arena, I was seeing whether or not to go on, and I'm like, I don't have the time or the money to sit there and rebuild my entire collection online, you know.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of sometimes if you started one collection or the other, you know.
I mean, they were nice enough to provide a good selection of stuff, but it's a good selection of stuff that I had not built decks with, which was the unfortunate thing, because I got behind on my deck building that I like to do normally, which eventually I will finish, but meh. You know, so that was the thing, is I didn't know where to go with it. Where was I going to play with it? So yes, it's covering the name because it's normally Joe's spot, and Joe as... Oh, I have to report. Poor Joe, who's my normal co-host on Discussing Tabletop here, he got into a car accident. He's all right, but he's a little inlaid. He's resting up with muscle injuries and stuff, and, you know, can't computer very much right now. So he will be back eventually with some recovery. Just like that's not Worm down there. It's technically Blaze, but he's a voice in the ether, so, you know. Which poor Worm also is having problems, so, hey, my co-hosts are all disabled, my normal ones.
Well, we send wishes to everybody for speedy recovery.
Oh my god, please, yes. Yeah, I'll make sure everybody knows that Joe, who's my normal rock of being here, we hope for his recovery. Anyway, why don't we touch on something else that seems controversial? I'll have to find the Reddit post. But up on Reddit, one of the Protour players basically protested Magic Protour. I guess
Jerry Thompson.
Yeah. He effectively said he wasn't going to participate because Magic does things very badly for poor Protour players. To make a long story short, you know, they don't really give them a lot of incentive to be a Protour. They don't leave a lot of spaces for a growing community, so it's like it's the same number of people that get to be in the Protour, and there's more people playing the game, which is kind of stupid. You know, if you have... That means it's like larger pool, smaller thing, kind of. And they make it very, like, last-minute difficult for them in a lot of retrospects. So this sounds definitely something. Oh God.
Yeah, basically it was Jerry Thompson announced the day of the World Championships, which were happening this weekend in Las Vegas, which if you weren't specifically paying attention, you wouldn't know, because they did not a good job of promoting this event, which was one of the things that Jerry Thompson mentioned. But basically he said, day off, he said, I'm not going to play. I'm going to sit out the event because I have issues with the way that pro play is handled. And he laid out a list of concerns. And I'm not going to try to recap them. If people are interested, they can find it, like I said, on Reddit. It kind of blew up and went miniature viral. There was an article on Kotaku. So it's easy to find that. And he laid out his points. And, you know, again, like, this is not something that directly affects my life. I'm not a pro level player. I have no aspirations of being a pro level player. The pro community is obviously fairly small, but there are a lot of people who have aspirations to join that community, and that's what it's relevant to at a larger level. Yeah. And from my 10,000 foot perspective, again, that this is something that doesn't affect my life. I think all the points that Jerry Thompson made strike me as eminently reasonable. I don't claim to know what the solutions are to many of them. I don't claim to understand how, again, the financial side of this business works for Wizards. But I think the bottom line is, if you look at the product that Wizards produces in terms of the Pro Tour, and then you compare it to similar products, whether it's esports, looking at esports leagues, or whether it's even looking at other card games like Pokemon, the product that Wizards is putting out with the Pro Tour is just not as good as the competing products out there.
Yeah.
I think it was April King on Twitter posted a picture of the Pokemon World Championships, and it looks fantastic. It takes place concurrent with other events. It's a giant hall full of people. There's giant mascots and everything. It's a huge production, and the production quality. And you compare it to the fact that we had Magic World Championships this weekend in Las Vegas, and almost nobody knew it was even happening. It's not. This is not a problem that can't be solved.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's possible to do a better job than they're doing, and I hope that they will do a better job than they're doing. And if this is what it takes to draw some attention to it, then maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, this is like one of those things. It's like, it's just a lot of stuff lately has been let's shit on Wizards, because I mean, look, I love a lot of stuff they do. They do a great job, but they have such big problems that look so easy to solve. And granted, okay, I will say, probably got some Hasbro above you saying certain things, but I'm sure even Hasbro, can see some light.
I'm not even going to say, it's not even so much that I think the problems are necessarily easy to solve. Everything looks easy to solve when you're on the outside.
True.
More just the kind of theme I come back to with a lot of these things. And again, huge asterisk. I'm on the outside. I don't know how things work in the inside of that building. The impression I always come back to is that Wizards needs more staff in all of their public-facing capacities. In organized play, in event management, in PR, in communications, in social media, in media, in marketing. One of the items on Jerry Thompson's list was that he said we don't get communication from the pros don't get good enough communication from the company about where the events are going to be and how we need to get there and whether or not we can bring plus ones. There was a whole problem with a lot of people missed apparently the instructions on how to invite their plus ones to come to Las Vegas, and pros were getting told that their husbands, wives, significant others couldn't come and watch them at the venue. And a lot of it, I think, just, again, caveat, I'm not on the inside. It strikes me that they just do not have a large enough team trying to handle these things. It's not that the people they have aren't great. The people they have are great. It's that they need more people. The size of the player base, the size of the community that wants to engage with this product is large enough now, which kind of gets back to the point Jerry Thompson was making in terms of the size of the people, the player base that wants to be on the Pro Tour. I'd expand that point out more generally. The size of the community that wants to interact with this product is so large that they just need more of an apparatus to interact with that community, from pro play all the way down to just having more of a responsive presence on social media.
Yeah, and like there are plenty of things that more staff would help with. You know, I feel like people oftentimes talk about how Wizard has a very North American focus. They do, because that's where they're based out of. That's where their office is. So it's easy. It's where all their staff is. Yes, maybe it would be good to be... You are an international product. Maybe it would be good to be more international. But maybe certain things like satellite offices in other places, especially since you are a global product, you've got a couple of global product lines. I'm sorry, Wizards has both Magic and Dungeons and Dragons. They are both global product lines. You are certainly global. You should... They have to take a step in that direction. And yes, it would mean hiring more people, like, or just like hiring someone that's like, hey, you know, you're helping us handle stuff in Asia. Maybe that's a little too general, but guess what? It might be better than just, you know, what they're kind of doing now.
And I'm sure that those things exist, but I suspect they need more of it.
Yeah. So I think that's... It's just that there are little things that probably could be fixed that we don't know. Maybe they're working on it. Maybe they're not. We don't know. There's a lot of stuff that we can see the results of it and know that the results aren't as good as they could be. But we can hope that... Oh god, the Chinese dual decks. Chat mentioned it. Oh my god. I was looking over those cards. It's interesting. I still want to get those. Just because I collect everything.
It's got a dog in it.
It's got a dog in it. Yes. But I feel like as someone that never really had aspirations for being a Pro Tour player, definitely, I respect those people that try to go for it. And, you know, if they have the skill to do it, then I would like, you know, them to be successful. You know? It's like people that are skillful musicians. If you hear someone that has like, oh, you're a really good player, you don't want to be like, oh, I don't want you to succeed. No, you want to be like, hey, you know, maybe you could get like, you know, someone pick you up, records. I'm sure people out there buy your album. It's the same way for someone that has a skill like in Magic. Magic is a game that requires a big lot of luck and a lot of skill to mix with it, you know? So it's like luck and skill meet each other, still needs that skill.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think any of the big tournament things are. So hopefully things will improve on this end. I know I think the best as I had is draft experience, like a pre-release drafting stuff, you know, things like that. Blaze, do you have any experience other than I think you went to a couple pre-releases too? So
yeah, other than a few pre-releases, and you know, sometimes even the communication down to that level sometimes seemed to be a little iffy.
Well, usually you end up with a judge there of some kind, which I think when I had I'm so bad with names, I'm forgetting her name. The one judge on that we were talking about it, that there's the different levels of judges too. So, you know, you might get a judge that's really good, or you might not for one of those small things. And not to say that they're not trying, but apparently there's a lot of rules in Magic. There's a hell of a rule book.
And
I printed it out like a couple years ago, and it was like a, you know, 3-ring binder full.
And the thing I would add here is that judges are the hardest working people at every event.
God, yes.
Like, people have no idea how hard judges work, all the things that they're responsible for doing. They're basically, in addition to having to know the rules, in addition to having to handle judge calls, they're basically helping to run the event. You know, everything from like logistics, trying to help people get match slips if they lose match slips, trying to help people find the right table they need to be at. Everybody, you know, expects judges to be able to do everything. They make nobody makes good money being a judge.
No.
And you have to travel, you have to find a hotel, you know, the amount of like blood, sweat, tears, and dollar bills that goes into being a judge, and they do it because they love the game. So you know, say thank you to your judges. They are the hardest working people.
Yeah, I think it's only like the people that like judge those big events, those really big ones that earn any sort of money, but it requires you to be like the top tier training and then a little bit of luck, and you have to hope that you're within close enough, you know, travel that you're not spending most of the money you'd earn from there getting there.
And again, on the theme of thankless jobs, God, what a thankless job.
Yeah.
You know, you basically spend all day with people who get upset with you for things that are not your fault.
Charlotte Sable.
Always a great job.
Charlotte Sable. That was the judge we had on. She was very nice.
Judges are saints.
Yes. Yes. So. Man. All right, let's talk about something that I felt was like a weirdly sort of yet non-controversial thing. The Ravnica, is it Masterpieces?
Yeah.
Ravnica Masterpieces. So I'm sure most of you, again, because we did talk about this before, are familiar with this. But for those of you that are new and not familiar with it, for a couple of sets, Magic put out like we could call it just the same thing, a masterpiece series with them. They effectively were like ultra rare cards, like the Zendikar block had their lands, Kaladesh had like their special artifact series, and Amonkhet had weird Egyptian themed cards that had like really, really interesting Egypty artwork. Anyway, they were like, if you got one of these things in a box, you're lucky. Or a couple, you're really, really lucky. They were just rare. So Magic's not doing that in a way. Instead, they're producing the same sort of set of things. They're doing a set of planeswalkers with very special, really cool, awesome images, but instead of putting them directly into booster boxes where you might find them like randomly, they're selling it online only in North America as like a special booster box for an extra price. Is it like how much is it?
It's $250.
$250.
And it's kind of like a smaller booster box because
Yes.
I believe it's 24 boosters instead of
36. Yeah.
36, and 8 of them have one of the Masterpiece Planeswalkers inserted.
So this is a really weird thing, which I have mixed feelings about, because A, it is easier to get the Masterpiece series if you really want it, rather than having to buy like a billion goddamn boxes or get them on a secondary market where they're going to have a massive price. I could get it all for $250, or possibly more, because $250 is just the base price they're saying.
Yeah, that's the retail price.
Yeah. And aren't they only selling it on currently Hasbro's site?
So recent developments on that.
Okay, I haven't heard the recent developments.
The original rollout was they said it's only going to be available through the Hasbro eStore, with a limit of 2 per person. And I think that was there've been a lot of complaints about this. I think that was the super legitimate complaint. We can get to that later, just because of the limitations of the Hasbro eStore. Mm-hmm. But in the same announcement where they said that they were going to be selling with Amazon, Walmart, and Target, they also said that the Channel Fireball events, which is the operator that runs all of the Grand Prix tournaments, would be able to was going to be allotted some product that they could distribute at Grand Prix, and that you could go online through Channel Fireball and pre-order, again, up to 2 boxes per person to pick up at a Grand Prix tournament. So there's now a second channel for getting the cards, which is you can pre-order them through Channel Fireball, and you can pick them up in person at a Grand Prix.
So that's pretty cool. I think like this is an interesting one to me, because it's like this is still exorbitantly priced, I really have to say, but it's an exorbitant price that I feel is better than the exorbitant price you'd have to pay if they were in the sets like before.
There was a lot of criticism of the price point, where people said it's too expensive. And my response to that is essentially, this is not like a pay to play thing. These are all cards which have already been printed, which are available in different formats. This is not the only place that you can get any of it. any of them. It's just a premium version with new art, with full art and a really cool effect. So I don't have a problem with them putting those out as premium products. It's essentially similar to what we've done in years past with the San Diego Comic-Con Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
It's a special edition of Planeswalkers which already exists that comes with new art, and it's available in limited quantities at a premium price. The way I would almost encourage people to think of this is it's a larger, more expensive SDCC set. It's essentially 8 Planeswalkers for $250, and they're throwing in 24 boosters. I don't think nobody's buying this thing for the boosters. The boosters are essentially a throw-in to add ballast to the shipping box, in my opinion. Yeah. Essentially what this is it's a bigger SDCC set, and it's even more available than the SDCC sets because we don't know what quantity they're going to print these in, but I have to believe it's more than the SDCC sets.
Yeah.
It's a premium product at a premium price, and if you think it's too much, you don't have to buy it. You know, nobody has to buy this to compete. And I don't think this is going to be, it's priced high. I don't think it's priced wrong. I think these things are going to sell out. I think they're going to sell out fast. And I don't think anybody's going to lose money on these. If you just want one of them, if you buy that, keep the 1 or 2 you want and break up the set and sell off the other 6 Planeswalkers, I think you're going to come close to recouping your money. Asterisk, I'm not an MTG finance guy. Please, nobody act on my opinions. But I would be shocked if these turn out to be a bad value. I would be shocked if they don't sell out.
Man, I definitely agree, and I think that's the big argument for them, which I definitely agree on, is they are just basically really expensive promos.
People want Planeswalkers.
Yes.
And people especially want full art Planeswalkers. They want new art Planeswalkers. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a product that people want. And putting aside how it's priced, putting aside how it's being distributed, I think people are going to want these.
Here's a link to MTG Goldfish because they have pictures right there of the 7 they've revealed. Because they haven't revealed the 8th, right?
The 8th's out now. It's the new Vraska.
Oh, it's the new Vraska. Okay.
Yeah, it's a full art version of the new Vraska.
Okay, I hadn't had a chance to see it, so gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Now, the thing that I think was the totally legitimate complaint was the distribution channel.
Oh yeah.
Was using the Hasbro eShop as the distribution channel because the Hasbro eShop, for anybody who's tried to use it, for example, to try to buy one of the SDCC sets, it's a really bad consumer experience. It goes down when the traffic is too high. It's unclear when the products are available or not. Maybe your order gets completed, maybe it doesn't. A lot of people had problems this year where they got the SDC set into the cart and then weren't able to complete the transaction because it sold out before they could finish buying it.
Wow.
Their commerce store is not a good customer experience, and also it doesn't ship internationally. It's US Canada only. And to me, that was my biggest complaint, is that there are people internationally who are going to want this product and won't be able to get it. So I have no problem with the fact that they're making it. I frankly have no problem with the price point they've decided to put it at. The complaint I thought was legitimate was, I don't like that I have to buy it through the Hasbro eStore because A, it's a bad sales experience, and B, God forbid you live outside of the United States and Canada and you want this because you're going to have to buy it at an atrocious marked up price from somebody who buys them and resells them.
Yeah.
So
I guess that goes back to Tantus where you said they're a global market. They need to
reflect it. And then, I still think this is not going to be perfect because I didn't realize until when I was reading on that, going back to the players in the tournament circuit, most of the GPs are in the U.S. So granted, yes, you can get these out to the GPs and stuff in other countries, but it's not perfect, not perfect.
And I'm really glad that they did at least that.
Yeah.
Now there is at least a way to get some product into international channels through the international GPs. Again, that's still obviously super limited. If you're not happening to live, let alone in the city where we're having an international GP, in the country or the continent where there's an international GP. you're still out of luck. But
like I look at
it's at least it's something which is better than nothing, and it comes back to the fact that how is it that in the year 2018, one of the largest toy manufacturers in the world can't do international fulfillment from their own company store? Like that's something that has to be fixed, and it's not going to be fixed in time for this product. But if they're going to continue to do this going forward, they just have to make an investment in that. They have to be able to sell internationally.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Just the like, and that does reflect, you know, like the international audience and respect to them. Definitely. I just like when I see like, oh, you know. When I hear about something like, you know, GP Vegas, that's hard for me to go to. Not impossible, though. I don't have to worry about something like getting a passport. But it could be like parts of Europe you might have to worry about, like, you know, granted, European Union helps a lot there. But there are parts that it might be difficult for go here to here, and it's not that far. Not nearly as far as going to Vegas, you know? Or like other places in the world. And the fact is that's something that I just don't see reflected in the GPs as much. The US has 1 billion of them. They're easy to go between because we're just a bunch of states, you know? That's why I always feel sorry when I see the international markets and I worry about these people. You know, it's like, I'm sorry you can't have this as much, as easy, like the GPs and stuff.
And I hate that this feels like rag on Wizards Day because goodness knows I love what they do and I love the people who work there and I'm the first person who's going to be a horrible booster for all the stuff that I like. When we get to the Ravnica part, we'll go back to my usual mode, which is just waxing rhapsodic about how much I like everything.
Yes.
But you know, when stuff isn't working, we got to point it out. And to me, not being able to fulfill orders internationally in this day and age is just, that's not okay.
Yeah.
we're past the point in time where that's okay. You know, when you can buy you know, a glass nightlight off of Etsy and get it from anywhere in the world. It can't be okay for the Magic Masterpiece series to not ship outside the US and Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like how many Kickstarters there are little people that have gone international.
Yeah, and they're very good at it sometimes. You know,
it requires infrastructure and investment, and the only way we're going to get them to make the infrastructure and the investment is for people to be vocal about the fact that they want it. So that's what I think is happening.
Yeah, like, I think that's an intrinsic difference here. Like, those little Kickstarter people, because they're starting out, they can easily go international. But Wizards sort of evolved from their normal, we're US-based, into international, so they've never hit that kind of push to really push it, you know? That, like, driving force behind it. Which, I guess is in a way a disadvantage, the way, you know, that they started out like pretty small and grew rather than making it big and forcing a direction, which both have, you know, merits, but
just that their business model is that they work through distributors.
Yeah,
that they sent product to regional distributors and the regional distributors move the product to the actual point of sale.
Yeah,
and they appear to not have their own distribution channel, which you can see how we got there, but we've just reached the point where if they're going to try to distribute product through their own channel, it's not okay for that channel to be US only.
Yeah, you gotta have something in place, especially if you specifically want to do special products through your own channels. Though maybe we'll see things like this on Amazon then.
You know, I don't know. I frankly, they could have done that and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
If they were fulfilling this through Amazon so that anybody could get it,
yeah,
that would be great. My guess is that they want to, for the things that they've specifically targeted as premium products, that they want to keep control of that themselves. But that, again, just means that they need to have the infrastructure in place to be able to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move a little bit away from the shitting on wizards for a bit and then praising wizards. Let's talk about the Guilds of Ravnica spoilers a bit. Like what's they putting out and what we're anticipating from things. A little bit of the special abilities and things like that. Let's talk about it a little bit. So, a lot of stuff's out. It's 5 guilds, right?
Is it Golgari, Selesnya, Dimir, and Boros here in the first set?
Yep. And I've seen some really good stuff from it. I'm kind of glad with the keyword abilities they have. Convoke coming back is one that's always I liked a lot anyway. I think when we were looking at them, like a couple of them were a little weaker. Like the Dimir one is just like a different version of my God, I'm blanking on a lot.
It's similar to Scry, except instead of bottoming, you go to the graveyard,
which has a lot of different things. The Golgari one sounds like something that we kind of would have had anyway. That its number of creatures in your graveyard triggers stuff when it comes into play. The Boros one, the Mentor, is kind of interesting. I feel like it's not like super great, but it's not terrible either. It's just it puts a +1/+1 counter when it attacks. Something else gets one. It's okay. And the play from your graveyard one from Jumpstart. That's again feels like something we've sort of had, but not quite in that format before. So
it's almost like a sort of depowered flashback.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things. Is a bunch of these other than Convoke, which is returning, 3 of them feel like just slightly alternate versions played slightly differently of things that already existed, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't have a huge problem with revisiting design space, especially if it's stuff that works.
Yeah.
Or feels correct and feels in flavor. I think that kind of when they announced Surveil, there were people who had like snap takes with like, it's bad Scry. And I'm like, what planet are you living on? This is not only bad Scry, it's better Scry. Yeah. There's almost no way to get any value out of putting something on the bottom of your library. There's a ton of ways to get value out of putting something in your graveyard.
Oh yeah.
And the ability to filter your draws, put things in the yard when you want to put them in the yard. I think it's super powerful. I think it's going to be super powerful. It's by far the best mechanic that Dimmer's ever had. It's the most on flavor mechanic that Dimmer's ever had. I think that the Dimmer stuff in this set looks really exciting. And that's one that I for one am excited about.
Yeah. The flavor of the set seems kind of interesting. I'm curious as to like how everything together with the storyline will build together, because I always, I'm a big lore fan, so I always like to hear about that kind of thing. I mean, I don't think off the top of my head I could like, just without like looking through things, like choose something that's really like puts it in my brain of like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, the quote on the Angel one. God, I love that one. Oh my God. Where is it? Divine Visitation.
Mm-hmm.
That's I'm sorry. You won with that one. It's almost is it werebear quality where he has the right to bear arms? I don't know.
There's a lot of really great flavor in the set. The names and text team did a wonderful job. With all the different tones, there's a ton of really funny stuff. There's a ton of really, really serious world building stuff. They're all really good. The art, there's a lot of wonderful art in the set. The kind of art direction this time around back on Ravnica, it's a very autumnal feel. Mm-hmm. So specific, we're seeing the city. It's a city we've been to before, but it looks different than we've seen it. There's a very, it's a different season. There's kind of a different color palette. There's a lot of beautiful art in the set, even down to all the guilds getting guild-specific basic lands in the guild packs with new art, new guild-specific art. I love the flavor. I love the art direction. The thing the cards that mainly strike me are some of the creatures in this set feel really pushed to me. Like there are some creatures that I looked at them and I can't remember. There's a mono black creature, which I think is a 5/5 flying trampler for 4 mana, which is the I'm going to look it up so I get the stats right. But it's the sort of thing where back.
Yeah, found it.
Yeah. Can you read it out because I don't have it on screen?
Okay, I think it's the Doom Whisperer, the six flying tramper where you pay 2 life to surveil 2.
Yeah, how much does it cost? Is it 5 or 4?
It's 5.
Yeah, okay, so it's a 6/6 flying trampler for 5 mana, which back in the day was the sort of thing where it would come with some horrible crippling downside. Like you would be paying life to keep or sacrificing creatures to keep this thing in play. And I must have read this card like 5 times trying to find the downside. There's no downside. This card is all upside.
Yeah.
It's a 6/6 flying trampling beat stick that comes with a really good ability too.
And the thing is, it's like you can have 4 of them.
Yeah, you don't even have to surveil with them. They're just mean. It's not even like a legendary, which I felt would have been like, okay, I can only have 1 in the set. There's my downside. No, I could have a play set of these things. And then, because it's Dimir, I could also like do some blue, create tokens. You know?
I think some of the creatures in this set look bonkers. I think that one looks bonkers. Boros got for 1 red, for 1 red, 1 white. I think they get a 1/1. Again, I think it's double strike vigilance trample, which it was the last time we were on Ravnica. 2 mana got you a 1/1 double strike.
God.
And now you get, I think it's vigilance and trample just thrown in there. Like, and that's the sort of thing where I don't know if it's busted, but if it's busted, it's busted.
Yeah.
Even down to like Knight of Autumn. Selesnya got Knight of Autumn, which for 1 white, 1 green, 1 colorless gets you a 2/1 body that can destroy an artifact or an enchantment or gain 4 life. Or it even has another mode. I have to look up what the 3rd mode is. It's got a 3rd mode on top of that.
Put 2 +1/+1 counters on Knight of Autumn, destroy target artifact or enchantment, or you gain 4 life.
That's crazy good. And this is like just a little uncommon utility spell, which is either for 3 mana, it's either a 4/3, which is totally fine, or it's Reclamation Sage, which you were already paying 3 mana for and didn't have any utility on it, or it's basically Kitchen Finks.
Yeah.
Like some of the creatures in this set seem like super good to me, like between like just being really good or being like pushed good. And I'm going to be interested to see how it plays out.
Definitely, I agree on that one there. I mean, getting back to like some of the I'm sorry, the Affectionate Enderic. I saw that little comic of him defeating like Nicol Wallace, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was wonderful.
and again, like just talking about that that's one of the things I love so much about Magic is that you could have these different tones.
Yeah.
There are a lot of cards in this set which have a very kind of dark color palette, which are dealing with very kind of serious subject matter. And that can coexist alongside this just like super funny card with the wonderful Steve Prescott art on it.
And the thing about it is,
the flavor text, which I'm going to laugh out loud every time I read it.
The thing is,
you can have both of those things.
The Angel one and that one, they're still not bad cards either. I'm sorry. The Enderic, it fights something and it comes to the battlefield. That's pretty good. I can kill off something I don't want on my opponent's side. That's useful, man. It's little things.
I'd be happy to draft that all the time.
No, it's definitely interesting. Some of the dynamic on this, and I'm going to be curious as to how they'll all play out. Like I see some of these things, like granted, like Pelt Collector. I think we've seen a version of that before. Things like that. Where is it? The stupid giant worm. What if Rick is it? Oh, there, the Imperious Great Worm. Yeah, about that.
Which is the buy box promo for this set, I believe.
I mean, that's a thing. 16/16 Indestructible Convoke. It's not the previous buy box promo, Nexus of Fate, but that's still if I was like specifically aiming for like a Convoke deck, that's something I would want if I'm going Cessnia.
I think some of the Convoke cards too are better than people are giving them credit for. In particular, I'm trying to find it right now. Venerated Loxodon jumps out at me. I think people are overlooking Venerated Loxodon. It's a 4/4 for 5 mana with Convoke. That every creature that convokes it also gets a +1/+1 counter when it comes into play. If you can ramp into that early with a couple of mana elves or something, you're getting an undercosted guy and you're buffing your team. I think that's one that potentially is going to find its way into play.
Or some of the other ones, like where is it? I saw it like a minute ago. The March of the Multitudes. It's a Convoke X spell. I'm sorry. In Cessnia, which is token heavy, it's just basically saying I more than double my tokens very easily.
Also has one of my favorite Easter eggs in the set, which is that if you look really closely in the art, you'll spot Fibblethip in the background there among the Selesnya army. So for anybody who remembers Fibblethip from Totally Lost, Fibblethip is hiding in the background there on March of the Multitudes.
See, and that's something I enjoy too. Is like the little things that you get in the artwork, and I think that's another discussion that I think we've all talked about before. Wizards has been on point for the past couple of years on its art, on both the Dungeon and Dragons side and Magic. They've ramped up all the art they've had to really, really good degrees. They've gotten really great artists to be working with them, and like gotten really, great expressions of it.
Normally, so yeah, I'm gonna talk about that for 30 seconds here. There's always a factor of art, of personal taste in art. De gustus est non disputanum. There's no arguing taste, and for people who don't like the art, they don't like the art, and that's okay. But the quality, from an objective standpoint, the quality of the art right now in Magic is so good.
Yes.
It's better than it's ever been. It's been that way now for a couple years. Like, we've had set after set after set that just has wonderful art all the way up and down the spectrum, where there's almost no bad pieces. The average piece is really good, and the great pieces are fabulous.
Yep.
And just the density and the density of really great art is better than it's ever been. We're living in a golden age for Magic art right now. And whenever I point that out, people want to get really upset, and they want to say, well, where's Rebecca Guay? Where's Phil Foglio? Where's all the art that I remember loving? And it's great to love that art too, and it's fine to be nostalgic for it. I love that stuff. Orcish Librarian is one of my favorite cards of all time. I love a lot of the old art. But you can love that old art and be nostalgic for that old art without trying to pretend that the art right now isn't fantastic. And it is.
Oh no, like I still love a lot of Melissa Benson's work, because I loved her Shivan Dragon art. That was just like that, like the original Shivan Dragon art for like how it was positioned. That it's like looking down at you, but I can respect that. That is, though good art, it has evolved. Like, the fact is, like, we're really in that one. We just have pretty much the Shivan Dragon framed in it. Now, if we would do it, something similar, there would be like an entire background to it that would be very in depth. To add to that entire thing. It makes it's more than just like we're showing off whatever this card is. We're showing off a story in the art.
And again, like the complaints you hear from people who want to drag the new art, they say, "Oh, it all looks digital," which it's not. It's just that's demonstrably untrue. It's not all digital. There are a variety of different artists working in a variety of different mediums. And is there art that's digital? Absolutely. There's also all kinds of traditional art, all kinds of art being done in different mediums. And then people want to say it all looks the same. And if it all looks the same to you, you're not looking at the art. I want people to look at Magali's new Vraska, and then look at Steve Prescott's affectionate Idrik. and then look at like the new promo art that Seb McKinnon just did for Chalice, the new online art for Chalice of the Void. Like, look at those 3 different pieces, which are total, or look at the Therese Nielsen SDCC walkers, which just came out. Or look at some of the Noah Bradley stained glass pieces from Dominaria.
And
look at all those and tell me that the art all looks the same.
And another thing that I think is very interesting, which I've been kind of noticing now, like looking through it, the color direction on the cards matches the color of the cards. Very much so. So if it's like a Boros card, it's got a lot of reds and whites. And it's really interesting because I'm looking like through the multicolor cards now, and they have that very heavy color scheme of the colors of the guilds they're in. And I like that a lot. So you can almost, like, just looking at the art, kind of get an idea of what there are in the grouping too. It's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So
you're saying with that, you know, just the fresh face recruit, you know, it's got that like red brick and his, you know, red in him, and he's got a white sky and white tunic, and it's a red and white card.
Yep.
So I look forward to people coming on Twitter and flaming me and telling me how much the art sucks. And listen, if you don't like it, if you don't like it, if it's not your style, that's okay. But it doesn't suck.
I mean, yeah, I don't know like all the art is like my style, but I have a definite respect for like the detail and stuff. I also like the dual cards they have in this set, because I don't think we've seen hybrid mana like gold color or like multicolor combination for these. It was usually just multi or hybrid, I thought before.
I honestly don't remember, but you may be correct about that.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. If they had it before, they had it not like to this degree, because that's what all of it is, you know. And I think that's a very interesting flavor to it too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like all the like ones is like you got it, and it's also like a very like most of the time I recall from like the last Ravnica set, they usually were like big spell, and they were usually like different guilds a lot of times too. This one is tiny spell for the guild, bigger spell for the guild.
And some of these I think are super playable too.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, like that's not usually the avenue I come at looking at this stuff from, because I'm not a super competitive player, but connive and concoct.
Mm-hmm.
That is gonna. I think that we're gonna see that in a bunch of formats. That strikes me as super playable. The one of the Boros ones, integrity, intervention. Both of those halves look totally legit to me. I think some of these are going to see play.
I mean, response and resurgence. I like that one a lot, because resurgence is it's a better. God, my brain is so bad today. The 5 mana red get an extra attack phase.
Yeah.
Reckless Assault, right? Did I get it right?
That's an older one, but yeah, in that same vein.
But it's the same mana cost for a white, and your creatures get first strike and vigilance until end of turn. I mean, I'm sorry. That's good. You know, it's like, and if, as someone who plays more, you know, older cards a lot of times, that's the kind of thing that's like, oh, if I could have some white, if I have a deck that has white, I would replace something like that, definitely.
Or even the Golgari one, status statue, where statue's a creeping mold, which is, I'm never sad to pretty much creeping mold. I'm never sad to have a creeping mold effect. And then status, as I think people immediately pointed out, target for 1 green or 1 black, target creature gets +1/+1 and death touch until end of turn, which is going to be coming into a format that has Goblin Chain Whirler in it. And I don't know if there's a deck that wants to play that combo, but that seems like not a bad thing to be doing if you can support that mana. Turn Goblin Chain Whirler into a one-sided Wrath seems pretty good. So.
Yep. Nah, there's definitely some really interesting things that seem to be within here and coming out. So definitely glad to see it.
This is my favorite time of the year. I love spoiler season. I always love spoiler season.
I find it always interesting because, like, as someone that definitely nowadays doesn't have the opportunity to go to, like, a lot of pre-releases and stuff and get involved in those, I always like seeing what's coming up because I'm like, oh, you know, maybe I could throw this into one of my old decks. Or, you know, as like what I did with the last Ravnica set, I'll probably get some of this and throw together a bunch of randomly combined guild decks. You know, it's like, okay, these two guilds, congratulations, let's tricolor deck. We've seen how it works. We'll see how this works.
And that is, I think, one of the interesting things in this set is a lot of the guild cards have very restrictive color costs. Where we even have a couple cycles with guilds getting creatures, say, that maybe, you know, black, blue to play.
Yeah.
Or something like that, where it looks like this time around there's definitely a concerted effort to force you to, if you want to play multiple colors, to force you to commit to one guild.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to kind of what we've had in, like, Return to Ravnica Standard, where it was like, here are all the dual lands you could ever possibly want, play 4 colors because why not?
Yeah. Yep. I don't think I ever played 4 colors in that. Did I? I'll have to check my decks. Anyway. It's God. Well, yeah, like, you definitely not playing more than, like, 2 colors if you want to use, very easily if you want to use, like, Niv Mizzet, too. Which I like his new one. I always like the other 2 Niv Mizzets. Will I throw him into my blue-red deck? I don't know. Flavor-wise, he might sort of work. Sure, maybe. I don't know. My blue-red deck is more of a creature-stealing deck, so that's why I have to wonder. It's a jerk deck. Anyway. I can admit when I have jerk decks. Either of you have anything else you want to hit on? Any cards you want to discuss in particular about this one that we feel like we should hit on more as we're looking through here?
Not for me.
Blaze?
No, I can't say any, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. A couple interesting reprints, too. Like the Wee Dragonauts and the Chromatic Lantern. Those are both interesting ones. So, cool. Let's move on to Magic novels. They're back. In POG form. I mean, like Alf. I think we talked about this before, but I definitely wanted to talk about it a little bit with you, Orcish Librarian, because, you know, you're much more a writer than I am when it comes to stories. So I'm interested to see what you think this will mean for the Magic stories we've been getting online. Because granted, I understand. These are completely different. This is a novel versus, like, a chapter or something, you know? So, very different products. But, like, what will this mean for one and the other? And, like, will we get one story with one, and will we still get the other one with its own story?
I mean, I think the short answer is that it's too early to say. We just don't know enough yet. I know that they've said that they're going to continue to do the online Magic story. Yeah. And we know we're getting a Ravnica story that's coming through Magic Story in addition to the novel. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think anybody knows yet whether those are going to be totally separate stories, whether they're going to overlap, whether they're going to have the same characters, different characters. I assume that there's going to be some level of overlap. I mean, pretty much the only information I think we have about the novels, we know which characters are on the cover art. So I think we know Kaya's coming to Ravnica, and beyond that, I don't think we know what's going to happen with the novel. Hey, it's more story. I'm always happy to get more story, and I hope it proves to be successful, and I hope they keep doing it. I'm never going to be unhappy if we get more story.
Yeah, it's true. I can agree on that. And it's been quite a few years since they tried the novels out. And the fact is, like, a lot of other tabletop products still do successful novel series. D&D, Pathfinder had its own. A couple others have still kept it going. But granted, they're more role-playing game related. But I'm sorry, Magic has just as much lore as some of those RPG worlds. They've spent their years developing it, and they've done it very well. So I can't see why it couldn't work more, you know? Again,
I mean, My understanding is that the reason they went away from the novels is because they didn't sell.
Yeah.
For all the love that the novels have within a very sort of specific niche of the community, that the explanation that always came out of Wizards from why they walked away from it is they said that didn't sell. And I'm hoping that we change that this time around. I'm hoping that more people take a look at it.
Well, it is a different, like, it's been years, so things have changed, kind of like maybe it's not like been a billion years, like a decade or something, but it has been enough years that things have changed, and maybe it just needs the right story, like giving a good comparison on the D&D side, like from Wizards. I don't know if D&D stories would be as big if they didn't have R.L. Salvador and the Dritz series, which has been insanely popular. That has probably driven a lot of the other sort of stories that they've done. One big popular series, you know, it's like, and maybe that's what Magic didn't have before. Like, something that caught on to people and were like, this is awesome.
And I think it's relevant that we're coming back to the comic books too, that they're doing new comics, because it's been years at this point since we had any Magic comics, and we know they've already announced that we're getting a Chandra comic from IDW, and certainly the implication is that there are more of them coming after that. So I think it's going to be interesting, and I hope those are successful too.
Yeah, I would love to see some more, and I think, like, you know, since I've been reading the little Magic stories now, I felt like they've been really getting better at them. You know, as they've been going on now, they've been getting like really good writers who've been expressing themselves quite well in the, you know, in I think the other thing is they're telling the story of the set, but they're not being like I feel they're not being as direct as something like as the cards themselves sometimes a little bit, and I think that's what helps. Like, the stories, cards can tell a story. They don't tell the whole story, so the way they've been doing it, I think, has worked very well, kind of thing.
And this is another case where right now we're so lucky because the quality is exceptionally good, and it has been for a while.
Yeah.
You know, going back to the blocks where the story was being done in-house by Wizards, you know, the Amonkhet story was really good. The Ixalan story was wonderful. A lot of the people I know who are super into lore, super into Vorthos, Ixalan story is their favorite Magic story we've ever had, and that was essentially the product almost entirely of Alison Lures at Wizards. Wrote pretty much that whole storyline by herself. And since then, when they've switched to using to bringing in guest writers for Dominaria, for M19, for the little Vivian Reed arc that we just had, the quality on all those has been really great too. So again, it's the quality of the story right now is super good, and it's been that way for really a couple of years at this point. It's just a great time to be a Vorthos.
I loved the Nicol Bolas story. I'm sorry. That was like it's like I had done a lore video on Nicol Bolas some time ago. This dived in such a way into him much more, especially in those early years. And granted, like, I definitely would trust Ugin more than him, but it's like little things like Ugin and him were twins. I'm sorry. What? Yes? I love, like, seeing that. You know, that's like, wow. That changes the dynamic between them so greatly in the battles that they kind of had.
And there are definitely going to be challenges with this new paradigm. Like, we've already seen a couple instances where it seems like maybe they're having trouble keeping some of the characterizations consistent across the different writers. Yeah. And that's something that I think is going to be an issue going forward if they're going to continue to use this model where they bring in guest writers to write different pieces. But those are minor little things compared to the quality of the story we're getting right now.
Yeah.
And and again, there must have been a fire sale on rose tinted glasses recently, because anybody who was reading the old novels they used to put out back in the day should be able to tell you that the characterization was not super consistent back then either.
God.
So it's not like we're living in it's not like this is some new problem.
I had a couple of the original Magic novels. Those things were interesting. You know, they were very different because it's also like they showed off, you know, a way of thinking about magic and planeswalkers that's so different than the modern take. Those original novels back in the day. My God, I think I had the arena one. Was it like and they had like the way that they summoned Lord of the Pit and were using mana and stuff was just like, you know, felt so different than they were doing things now and all the things. I just remember it. It was interesting how they've evolved, definitely. I don't know, Blaze, did you ever get into any of the Magic novels yourself? Or any of the kind of writing on it? Because I know we've both liked a lot of, well, the lore that's on the quote, what is it? I'm like, I'm going to call it quotes, and I'm like, my brain just, again, my brain farts a lot today.
Flavor text?
Flavor text. God. Look at me. I'm falling apart. Again. Sure. Go ahead, talk.
I think I had like one book. I never really got into them.
Yeah.
But you know, I think I read the one, you know, was for Dritz, but you know.
Oh yeah, when you're talking about like the D&D ones. Yeah, getting into role playing / tabletop books, I don't think is like. It requires you to be looking for more stories than you get with when you get with the actual experience in the game, which I think that's another like step in these that you don't necessarily take, that a lot of people don't take. And I think that's also why it's probably more niche. And if they're bringing back the comics, that might be a way to grab some more people, because comics are much easier to digest than, you know, a novel. So that's good.
And I think it's an encouraging sign that it looks like, at least for the one that they've announced already, the Chandra comic, that they're going to do comics centered around some of the main characters.
Yeah.
The characters who are kind of already established, already popular, as opposed to in the past where the comics kind of tried to spin up brand new characters. I think that this may potentially be a more successful model.
There were some of the comic series that I thought were pretty good and kind of interesting. Like, I think I read through a bunch of the Ice Age comics, and those were kind of interesting because it was adding story to like some of the characters and flavor that was mentioned, you know. So it was like, yes, it's not the same kind of focus as we didn't have, I think, back then, like a Chandra or like a Nisa or a Gideon that we could really get behind as like, you know, this is a character we know a lot more about. And I think that's also an advantage they have now. So, why don't we hit on our last topic, just a little bit of it. Online versus paper, or physical, we should say. This is something that we kind of talked about a little earlier, but I wanted to hit into a little bit more about like, how do we see these two markets evolving to? Because Magic is coming out with Arena, which is going, it's like, is it this week or next week that it's, or like early next week that it's going like open to everyone pretty much?
I believe it's next week, but no one should quote me on that. They should look it up.
I saw the date earlier today, but my brain makes me forget things very easily. Because, yes. Because I'm bad. But no. Nope, missing it. I couldn't find it. I tried looking. Oh, well.
Open beta starts September 22nd.
Thank you.
27th, sorry.
September 27th. So it's this week. That's a thing that I think is interesting, that Magic is making a new online game. And Arena, I've heard, is better than Magic Online. So maybe that's good. I think it might have some of the same problems that we have had, I feel like, exists within Magic Online, which is, if you're going to curtail it that you have to spend a whole bunch on Arena, just like you had to spend a whole bunch on online, you're going to make it that that would be something that either you have the money to get into both, if you're already doing physical and that, or you're doing one or the other. Like for me, it was one or the other. So I'm interested. What do you people think about their online market as they're doing it now? Because they want one just like they want a physical one, but I don't know if an entirely new game is what they need.
I think that, I mean, my understanding is that Magic Online is profitable. It makes money for them.
Mm-hmm. But
anybody who's used Magic Online will be able to tell you that not only is it not the best software in the world, it's probably, if I was making a like Hall of Fame for software that I've been least happy when I use it, like Magic Online is like a mortal lock to be in the first class along with Skype. And,
oh my God, Skype.
So I think the problem with Magic Online fundamentally is that because the client is so user unfriendly, even to experienced people who've been playing Magic for 20 years and have been using Magic Online before, I struggle to use the online client. God forbid you don't play Magic. If you're a beginner, I don't understand how you would ever start playing Magic with Magic Online. And so I think that clearly they have a hole in their digital space for a casual friendly product, which is what Arena ideally ought to be. And if it's, I hope it's successful. You know, it's clearly trying to, I don't think Arena is supposed to replace Magic Online. I don't think Arena is supposed to replace Paper Magic. I think that they're all different products aimed at different users.
Well,
and I don't think anybody's ever going to want to play test for a Grand Prix on Arena. I think you're going to want to do that on Magic Online. But I don't think you would ever want to start playing Magic Online. I think that that's, you know, the audience that Arena hopefully is for.
That's what I kind of heard folks, it sounded like, which maybe they're not then, that they were going to be moving more away from Magic Online and focusing on Arena. Like that was going to be their new online thing that they were doing, you know?
You know, I think it's impossible to say. This is, I think at that point we're getting into the realm of like everybody just trying to read Wizards' minds.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's impossible.
And to me, they're very different products again. Like Magic Online is kind of like a very one-for-one copy of Paper Magic. You can redeem cards. You can redeem your Magic Online cards into physical cards. So there's an inherent value that comes from the collection. There's a whole secondary market for Magic Online with trading and bots, and essentially an analog to a real world currency. So there's an economics to that which won't be replicated in Arena if they're not going to have trading, which they've said they're not going to have. So I don't think that anybody who's, I continue to think that they're for different users. That if you want to build an extensive collection, if you want to play older formats, if you want to play test for an upcoming event or try a bunch of different decks, that feels to me like something that's always going to be easier to do in Magic Online versus if you just want to play casually and have a couple quick games. I think that's the audience that Arena's for. And I don't think they have to replace each other. When Arena was announced, I think a lot of people were like, is this the end of Magic Online? And you know what? If it's 5-10 years from now and Arena is hugely successful and MTGO isn't making money, then sure, maybe it is. But I don't think Arena is a replacement for MTGO. I think they're different products.
I think that's probably more what it is, that they're gonna like try to see what works best and play from there. Yeah, Wizards. Man, Magic Online is awful in a way. I'm sorry.
It's almost impossible to use even if you know what you're doing. That's the
I'm sure there's some things I'm missing with it, and I tried playing around with it and I'm like, I tried because what I tried to do was I tried to build my zombie goblin deck in there so I could play it for funsies with the people I knew. And I couldn't figure out a way other than like buying all those cards, and it's a legacy deck, so it has cards that are expensive. that maybe weren't as expensive when I got them. God. Yeah. I still like the physical game. That's why I'm gonna do the Discord.
The biggest thing I have about the online is, as you said, 5-10 years down the line, if Arena, is profitable and Magic Online is not, they shut down the servers. Now, what happens to all the time and money you put into that?
I mean, they do have that entire system of like getting some physical stuff from the online things, so you could maybe sort of in a way cash out before you go. But I'm curious as to how one for one that is anyway.
If we ever end up in that future, I think the question would be, what can they do that provides some sort of value to people who have substantial resources invested in Magic Online? And I don't claim to know what the answer that is.
Yeah.
So that is. But to me, the good news and the reason that I don't think anybody needs to or ought to be panicking about it is, to me, that's a 5-10 year time horizon. That's not this year. That's not next year.
Yeah.
And it may be, and if we ever get to that state, it would have to mean that Arena has the capacity, because like Arena just doesn't have the same cards on it. Arena only has, current sets.
Yeah.
So you can't play, Legacy on Arena. You can't play Vintage on Arena. And in order for Arena to ever replace Magic Online, it would have to have those older sets added in, at which point maybe it's possible to migrate your collection from one to the other. By the time it ever becomes a problem, I hope there will be a solution to it.
Yeah, definitely. You were gonna say something, Blaze?
Yeah, just as he said, maybe you can bring your collection over, then it'd be you won't lose anything.
There's a lot of things could be happening. We could speculate all day about it, but I guess we're gonna have to see how the entire online community, if this is like, is there room for more than one online Magic game? Yeah, I can see that. Sure. And so if maybe Arena's a different kind of game than online, it's, Arena's supposed to be your, easy to join in, throw down quickly, have an enjoyable time, kind of like, like snack food Magic, and you're like, large meal that takes a while, that takes like, you gotta work through it or something, is your Magic Online, then there's a place for both of those. So... And, I kind of agree that I don't think it will ever kill the physical unless they're all dying, I don't think. Unless we're seeing a drop in everything, I don't think one will technically replace the other. I think there's also too many, online or, video game, card games out now. Anyway. It was Magic Online, and then Hearthstone, and now, everybody and their mother is trying to throw into this group. So I think that's a thing that will help keep this entire thing from, getting to be the point where everybody wants to do it. More than physical. Especially for Magic, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they're just fundamentally different experiences.
Yeah.
And different ones are going to appeal to different people. And the idea that Wizards, who are market leaders in paper and afterthoughts in digital, would for some reason want to chuck paper and throw all in on digital, just to me doesn't even pass the laugh test. Why would you want to abandon a market where you're making a ton of money and you're the market leader to pile into a market where you historically you're behind everybody else?
I could see someone at Hasbro suggesting it, just because people at that top don't always have the full picture of the things down below about what's going on. And I understand that's just the nature of a large company. You don't always pick up on everything right away, and that's led to plenty of mistakes with big companies before, so maybe there's something to it. But I would not say on the Wizards side. I would say maybe on the Hasbro side. But as long as Wizards makes money, I don't think they'll push it.
But even, Hasbro's a physical goods company.
That's
Hasbro,
true.
Hasbro makes Transformers and Nerf guns. Like, they're not afraid of physical. They're not afraid of making physical goods. So I would be surprised if that push ever came from. I could certainly see Hasbro saying we would like you to do more in digital because that's a market we're not making as much money as we'd like to. But I can't imagine Hasbro ever being like, we want to get out of physical, because that's their market.
Very true. Yeah. Getting out of it completely? Nah, I agree with you. I don't see
that. They sell Nerf and Transformers. They're not afraid of physical.
Yeah. Probably other things too, but those are like the main ones. Nerf, Transformers, and some random board games like Monopoly and stuff. I don't know if they're necessarily Monopoly, but some of those ones. Yep. Yay, Hasbro. All right, cool. I think unless you guys have anything else, I think we pretty much hit on all the points I wanted to talk about today. I think we had a very good discussion on some of these state of the Magic communities. There's a lot of things, again, we like about it, and a lot of things that we're like, Wizards, you should work on that. Come on now, guys.
And the thing is, they can both be true. It's when people want to make it sound like the sky is falling, and it's not. I don't think the game has ever been healthier than it is right now, but that doesn't also mean that there's not things that can and should improve.
Yeah, and it doesn't also mean that just because it's healthy now, you can't go in a negative direction, so we should all keep a lookout. Because, as I said, Magic had a really great booming community for a while, then kind of had some struggling points in all the 25-plus years now they're working on. Ups and downs. And also for like both loving and hating a company, just anytime you come to this show and we're talking about something by Steve Jackson Games, we love the people because they do great things. We hate a lot of the things they do also. Steve Jackson Games is just the same as Wizards. Love and hate at the same time. Munchkin is wonderful. Stop making stupid stuff for Munchkin. Magic is wonderful. Fix some of your stupid stuff. Okay. There's my expose onto the tabletop community and, fixing things. Do I have something on D&D? Because they're also done by Wizards. Not at the top of my head. So, I thought...
That's enough.
I'm like, you haven't done anything stupid yet. Too stupid. Yet. Anyway. Alright, cool. I don't think we're going to do any of our normal regular segments too much today, just because this is kind of like a special Magic discussion day, But yeah. I mean, have we had any chances to play some awesome Magic games lately? How about that one? I have had an opportunity a couple weeks ago just to play a little bit of casual stuff, but I was using Joe's deck when I was visiting him one time, so I haven't used my decks in forever. I'm sad.
I played Plane Chase this week for the first time in forever, and I was reminded of how much fun that is.
Wonderful. It's wonderful. It's such a strange dynamic to the game. It's like it's like another random element. I love it. You have to play some Plane Chase sometime soon.
Yeah, well, I don't usually get to play my decks against Joe because he won't let me.
I begrudgingly accept when I notice you're playing the Time Warp deck. I'm like, ugh. At least I know what I'm facing. Your decks are memorable, man. That's a good thing, ish. Anyway, all right. Why don't everybody, why don't you give your guys kind of shout outs of information and people where to find you, what you're going to be up to in the week, and all that kind of stuff. Orcish Librarian, we'll start with you.
Yeah, people should find me on Twitter. I'm at bibliovoreorc for all your bad puns and book jokes. Check it out.
Yeah, let me just put that there. Blaze.
You can find me normally. Streaming on with you different,
things
days. I think we're going to be doing tabletop tonight.
Yeah, should be tabletop similar tonight, and I know we're still probably for a little bit beyond schedule for Arc for Dino Puncher and his Dino Saucers, because that was an interesting kind of event we had. We'll see how that works. more of it. The rest is probably up in the air. I'll probably be back tomorrow morning. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll be back tonight for Tabletop Simulator. And, of course, check out all this stuff. And, yes, expect me to probably try out experimenting with playing Magic on Discord some point soon with some people. I'll probably stream it, record it, and throw it up on YouTube. We'll test it out. Yay! I have no idea how well it will work. I might have to get like something to put my camera on for like an upper to down view for the desk here that actually works. So we'll see. Anyway, thanks everybody that stopped by. Thanks Orcish Librarian. Thanks Blaze for joining me. I think we had a pretty cool conversation about a lot of Magic stuff. Very nice.
Thanks everybody.
So, till next time.